There's a language that time speaks, a quiet dialect, written not in words, but in the gentle bend of a branch that has faced the wind, in the soft patina on a cherished piece of furniture, and in the graceful lines on a human face. It speaks of change, not the loud, chaotic change that often frightens us, but a softer, more profound transformation, an adaptation. For years, I looked at aging as a season of loss, a fading of a light, but I was wrong. Through conversations that unfolded slowly, on quiet afternoons, I was gifted with a profound perspective, a collection of elderly wisdom that has reshaped the way I see life itself. Today, I want to share that gift with you. These are the 6 powerful lessons, the gentle art of adaptation, that our seniors taught me about navigating the beautiful and sometimes turbulent waters of change. The first lesson came from Arthur, a retired carpenter. His hands, once strong enough to shape solid oak, now trembled just slightly as they wrapped around a warm cup of tea. Even in stillness, his fingers seemed to hold the memory of 100 different tools. He told me about the day he finally sold his workshop, the sacred space where the scent of sawdust and varnish had hung in the air for half a century. I expected to hear a story of loss. Instead, he spoke of liberation. For 50 years, he said, his voice a low, thoughtful hum. Those tools were my language. The saw was my voice. The hammer was my heartbeat. To let them go, at first, it felt like letting go of my own breath. He paused, looking at something far away. But one morning, I woke up, and the silence from the workshop wasn't empty. It was open. It was an invitation. I realized, he continued, leaning forward slightly, you spend a lifetime building things. Your career, your reputation, your identity. You build it so solidly, you think that's who you are. But you're not the work of your hands. You are the heart that guided them. The work was just a vessel. He taught me that letting go is not an act of defeat. It is a profound act of grace. It is about making space, consciously, bravely. It is about unclenching our fists, releasing our desperate grip on what was, the person we were, the strength we had, the life we knew, so that our hands are open to receive what is. This is a core challenge and a quiet, personal triumph when navigating retirement. It's the understanding that life is not about accumulation, but about distillation. It is not about losing a part of yourself. It is about discovering the essential self that was always there, waiting patiently beneath all the noise, just waiting for the silence. My next teacher was Eleanor. Her life had been a grand tapestry, woven with threads from every corner of the globe. Her small, sunlit apartment was a quiet museum, a testament to a past filled with adventure. A faded map of the Silk Road hung on one wall. A delicate porcelain mask from Kyoto sat on a bookshelf. Her life had been a symphony of grand experiences, of loud, vibrant moments. And so I asked her, with all that she had seen, and all that she had done, what brought her the most profound joy? Now, I expected her to point to a photograph from Paris, or recount a story of a safari in Kenya. Instead, she simply raised a delicate finger and pointed toward the window, where the morning light streamed in. "Do you see him?" she whispered, her eyes sparkling with a secret delight. "The little brown sparrow. He comes to that exact branch every single morning. He puffs up his chest, and he sings the very same song he sang yesterday." She smiled, a soft, genuine smile that seemed to hold a universe of contentment. And every morning, she continued, her voice barely a breath, "It feels like the first time I have ever truly heard it. The world can be so loud, you see. For years, my joy was loud, too. The roar of an airplane engine, the chatter of a foreign marketplace. But this is quiet joy. It's truer, somehow, deeper, in a world that constantly shouts for more. More success, more acquisitions, more grand achievements." Her wise advice was a revolutionary whisper. Joy is not always found on the mountain peaks of our lives, the moments we frame and display for all to see. More often, It resides in the quiet, sun-drenched valleys that we inhabit every day. It is the rich aroma of coffee, brewing in the stillness of dawn. It is the unexpected warmth of the sun on your skin on a cool afternoon. It is the familiar comfort in the voice of a loved one over the phone. These are the moments we so often overlook in our relentless pursuit of the next big thing. But one of the most beautiful senior life lessons is the unlearning of that pursuit. It is the relearning of how to see. It is the discovery that these are not small things to be hurried past. They are everything. They are the intricate, sacred details that make up the substance of a life well lived. It is learning to see the entire universe in all its splendor, reflected in a single drop of morning dew. Change can feel like a storm, a sudden, disorienting tempest, tossing us in unpredictable waves, with nothing solid to hold on to. The ground beneath our feet feels as if it has turned to water. It is the feeling of being unmoored, adrift in a sea of uncertainty. The lesson I learned from Maria was the power of an anchor, a simple, handmade anchor, forged not from iron, but from intention. And for her, that anchor was routine. It wasn't a grand or exciting schedule. It was a quiet rhythm, a gentle pulse that beat steadily through her days. The same walk through the park, at the same time, each morning, greeting the same familiar faces, noting the subtle shifts in the seasons on the same ancient trees. The daily phone call to her sister, punctual as a clock tower's chime. A simple connection that reaffirmed she was not alone. The ritual of the evening news, not for the chaos of the world's events, but for the simple, structured act of listening, of marking the end of one day, and preparing for the quiet beginning of the next. I must have looked puzzled, my younger mind equating routine with monotony, thinking of it as mundane, perhaps even boring. She saw my expression, and she smiled gently, a knowing look in her eyes. "It is not boring," she insisted, her voice firm, yet kind. "It is a promise I make to myself, each and every day. It is a promise of stability," she explained. "A promise that, no matter what has changed in the world, or in my body, or in the lives of those I love, this I can count on." Her words taught me something profound. A routine is not a cage, built to confine the spirit or limit possibilities. It is a trellis, a sturdy, reliable framework, lovingly constructed. It doesn't restrict life. It gives life a structure to grow upon, a form to hold on to, especially when other, larger structures have fallen away. It is a quiet, daily act of creation, of building a sanctuary of predictability in a world that is anything but. This is a deep and practical wisdom in aging, the powerful understanding that true freedom, the space to breathe, the peace to simply be, is often found within a gentle and sacred framework. Perhaps the greatest fear of change is not the change itself. It is the silence that follows, the quiet, nagging fear of becoming irrelevant, of losing our purpose. We build our lives around a central pillar, our career, our role as a parent, our identity, and when that pillar is removed, we are terrified the entire structure will collapse. I carried this fear with me when I went to meet James, a man who, for 40 years, was a titan of industry, a former CEO whose voice once commanded boardrooms, whose decisions shaped the futures of thousands. His purpose had been clear, powerful, and defined by success. I found him, not in a high-rise office, but in the hushed, colorful corner of a local school library. A small group of children sat at his feet, their faces turned up to his, their eyes wide with wonder. He was reading a story about a dragon who was afraid of the dark. Later, as we sat among the shelves of books, he spoke to me. "For 40 years, he said, his voice now gentle, without the hard edge of authority it once held, my purpose was to build a company, to increase shareholder value, to win." He looked over at the children, now drawing their own dragons with bright crayons. "Now, my purpose is to build a child's imagination, to help a little boy find his courage in a story, to make a little girl laugh." He turned back to me, and he smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile that reached his eyes. "Tell me," he asked, his question simple, yet shattering. "Which one sounds more important?" And in that moment I understood. This is the deep, transformative wisdom in aging. It is the courage to see that purpose is not a static title, etched onto a business card. It is not a salary. It is not the applause of the world. Purpose is a verb. It is to teach, to nurture, to listen, to share, to create, to love. And that is a purpose that can never be taken away from you. It simply changes its beautiful, and often more meaningful, form, powerful enough to leave a beautiful and lasting mark. Life will break your heart. It is an unavoidable truth, a promise whispered at the very beginning of our journey. Sooner or later, the world we know will crack. We lose people whose laughter was the soundtrack to our lives. We lose abilities we once took for granted, the effortless strength in our hands, the quickness in our step. We lose the futures we had so carefully imagined for ourselves. The question, I learned, is not if we will break, but how we choose to mend. This lesson came to me through Isabella, a woman with eyes that held both a deep, quiet ocean of sorrow and a profound, unshakable peace. She spoke of her late husband, the love of her life for 60 years. And as she spoke, the air in the room did not grow heavy with despair. It grew sacred. There was sorrow in her voice, yes, a tangible, aching loss that would never truly disappear. But there was no bitterness, no sharp edges of anger, no lingering shadows of regret. "The cracks are where the light gets in," she whispered, quoting the poet who had given her comfort in her darkest hours. She looked at her own hands, turning them over slowly, as if seeing them for the first time. "My grief," she said, her voice clear and steady as a bell, "is simply the shape of my love. It has to go somewhere. When you love that deeply, the space it leaves is immense. This pain, it proves how much he mattered. It proves how beautiful our life was. This is the very core of resilience in old age. It is not about being unbreakable. It is not about building walls so high and thick that nothing can touch you. It is the very opposite. It is the stunning courage to feel the break completely, to sit with the pain without flinching, to honor its depth, and then, with great intention, to find the gold to mend it, the gold of memory, the gold of gratitude, the gold of a love that transcends even death itself. This is the great, hidden wisdom in aging, the understanding that our scars are not signs of weakness or imperfection. They are maps. They tell a story of survival, of battles fought in the quiet chambers of our own hearts, and of a love that was, and is, and finally, I learned of the most powerful adaptation of all, a quiet, graceful shift in purpose, so subtle it is often missed, mistaken for the simple act of looking back. It is the profound transition from being the main character, living the story, to becoming the keeper of the story, the narrator. In every conversation, with every senior I had the privilege to speak with, there came a moment, a point where they would lean back, a distant, gentle look filling their eyes, and begin a sentence with those 5 sacred words. I remember when, in that moment, a portal opened. They were not just reminiscing. They were not simply drifting into the hazy landscape of the past. They were performing a sacred, essential duty. They were reaching back through time, gathering the invisible threads of history, of laughter, of heartache, of lessons learned in the harshest of winters, and joys discovered in the simplest of summers. And they were weaving those threads, meticulously, lovingly, into the living fabric of the present. They were ensuring that what came before is not forgotten. They are our living libraries, their memories, the shelves holding volumes of unwritten books. They are our breathing archives, the guardians of our personal and collective identity. They hold the recipe for a grandmother's bread, yes, but they also hold the recipe for resilience. They remember the tune of an old lullaby, and they also remember the rhythm of perseverance. They are our anchors to who we were, and the only reason we can understand who we are. This final, greatest adaptation is to become a source, a deep, clear well of stories and experiences, from which we all can and must drink, lest we forget the taste of our own history. Do not mistake this for a passive role. It is not an ending. It is perhaps the most active and vital role of all. It requires the wisdom to know which story to tell, the courage to revisit painful chapters, and the love to pass it all on, not as a burden, but as a gift. The final, beautiful blossoming of a life, the purest form of elderly wisdom. 6 lessons, 6 quiet truths, offered not as lectures, but as gifts, letting go, not with defeat, but with grace, finding joy, not in the thunderous applause, but in the gentle whisper of the everyday, building a routine, not as a prison, but as a sacred anchor in a swirling sea, redefining purpose, discovering that its most powerful form is often the one given to others, mending the heart, not by hiding the cracks, but by filling them with the gold of memory and love. And finally, telling the story, becoming the vital bridge between what was and what is. This, then, is the gentle art of adaptation. It is not a fight. It is not a struggle against the inevitable current of time. It is a dance, a slow, graceful dance with change, learning its steps, feeling its rhythm, moving with it instead of against it. It's a testament to the incredible and often underestimated resilience in old age, a strength that is quiet, but more profound than any mountain. The world we live in often celebrates the wisdom of the young, their innovation, their energy, their relentless drive forward. And that is a beautiful thing. But we must never, ever forget the deep, lived-in senior life lessons that can only be earned over time. The wise advice that has been distilled through decades of joy and sorrow, of success and failure. So, if you're navigating this season of life, if you're the one who is letting go, finding new purpose, and mending, know that your journey is one of immense strength and dignity. You are not fading. You are not diminishing. You are concentrating, like a fine wine or a precious essence. You are becoming the purest, most essential version of yourself. Your wisdom in aging is a beacon. And if you are lucky enough, truly lucky enough, to have a senior in your life, a parent, a grandparent, a neighbor, a friend, put down your phone, close your laptop, and listen. Listen to the stories. Listen to the silence between the words. For they are teaching us the most important lesson of all, the one we all spend our entire lives trying to learn: how to live. If these stories and lessons resonated with you, a simple like on this video is a quiet way of showing it. It helps these gentle truths reach others who may need to hear them. And to continue exploring this journey of thoughtful living with us, we warmly invite you to subscribe to our channel. Most importantly, for the elders watching, for our treasured keepers of stories, this comment section below is a space for you. We would be deeply honored if you would share a piece of your own wisdom, a memory, or a thought about the art of navigating change. Your story matters, and we are here to listen.